Hi, I'm Stephanie Orell, and today I want to start with sharing a talk actually that I did briefly last night at an event at Fordham University created by Isis Toulouse. Shout out to Isis. She did a beautiful piece on what she calls her story, which was an event motivated by her desire to help the homeless population, female homeless population particularly in, I think, New York City. She does have a donation site available, so perhaps we can share that with you on the YouTube. There were about 100 people at the event, and Isis asked me to give a short speech, which I'm essentially going to share with you now. It was an interesting experience for me because I really enjoy and want to do more mentoring of women. So I hope those of you watching find there's some little kernel or little spark in what I'm about to say that will be useful to you. I started with a quote by Simone de Beauvoir that says that one is not born a woman but becomes a woman. And so I'll break this talk up into two pieces, one about becoming a woman and one about being a woman. For me, the concept of becoming, which I think is still happening, really takes its root in the access to other women. So finding mentors. And this is not something I did intentionally. It's something that just happened in my life. And I put these mentors into three categories. The first one is thinking about people that have skills that might help me or that they can teach me about how they live life, about how they practice their craft. In this example, or in this way, my 11th grade English teacher, Rebecca Darty, still reads nearly every single thing that I write and put out into both public and academic places. And having her with me in that journey gives me innumerable amounts of wealth and pride, and I'm so eternally grateful. I feel really lucky, actually, for the amount of women I've had in my life that have kind of held their hand out to help me to the next step or stage of my life. Rebecca is definitely one of them. The next category that I have are my friends. And I have two very close friends from graduate school, so we're all in the same field. And we meet weekly. We talk about work, we talk about personal lives, we discuss students' strategies, we talk about our writing projects, we talk about the weather, we talk about vacation. So having them around now for over 10 years, having them around gives me great comfort. You know, when someone's with you for an extended amount of time and witnesses your own becoming, there is something very unique that emerges out of those relationships. They see me and we learn to trust each other, and they also can mirror me so that they give me opinions or thoughts about what they see that I experience, what they witness, and maybe some feedback about how to do better. So I find that in thinking about becoming a woman, having good friends that are consistent friends that you see through both the positive and negative aspects of life is really critical. The third thing for me is, I don't want to call it mentors, more like a scholars that I look to. This is specific to my field, but I think that the idea of it will be understandable. When we're out in the world, in a consumer culture, in a patriarchal culture, in a world where a lot of the movies, the central and heroic character is generally a male, there are different tapes that we have in our heads that get circulated and kind of imprinted. They're not all bad, and I don't want to say that they're bad, but there are often lacks of alternatives. And if we get stuck in this one rut that doesn't have variation, then our norms in the social world start to adapt to that rut, whatever it is. I like to kind of counter that rut with watching movies that are heroine focused, watching TV shows that are heroine focused. But even more than that, for me, I like to listen to YouTube, old recordings, paper presentations by female scholars that I admire. and whose way of thinking and speaking counters the majority. That counters the majority of just the way I guess American life runs, is a good way to put it. And my number one feature scholar would be Bell Hooks. And when I listen to her, I remember my core at some level. So it's a good wake up call, so to speak, but more of kind of awakening my soul to how I want to be or how I strive to be in the world. So again, back to this concept of becoming. You can do this with playlists. So I have a woman playlist, which gives me the messages that kind of counter maybe some of those that I've adapted from a patriarchal paradigm. So the next category of the talk, and what I'll talk about, has to do with being a woman. I had some time to think about a narrative or a story or anecdote that I wanted to tell that had to do with relationships with women that were positive. And it was actually really hard for me to come up with this really positive experience that I've had with women as a story or as a singular story, because what I realized that most of my relationships are messy, that they don't necessarily have one clean narrative that's perfect. So in that way, they're not a social media feed that only shows the positive. There's dimension to my relationships with other women, and some of that is challenging. And so I started to think about what information do we get from that idea. For me, the information that I get from that reality, that I don't have this canned, really pretty story to tell, is that my relationships reflect reality, and that we have a lot of positives and negatives in any interchange we have with people who we trust, who we love. And that's pretty standard and also okay, and actually in a way exciting, because we don't know what's going to happen next, or what we're going to experience, or who's going to be there for us when there's something negative or painful in our lives that can give us new information, new insights, and maybe a new depth of relationality with that particular individual. Being a woman then entails an ability to sit with, be able to be in the ambiguity of any relationship, and to be able to see the messiness. To think about how we do that, I started to think about the concept of shame. So I'll return to that for just a second in this video. As I entered the room last night, I noticed, little by little, people coming in, darting eyes, looking for somebody that they knew. If they see somebody they don't know, maybe averting their gaze. And I realized what was in circulation just in that moment was the experience of shame as a social emotion that regulates the way that we do interchanges with other people. So not shame as a lowered sense of self-worth, although I'll get to that in a second, but shame as just helping us know, okay, I don't know this person, I'm not going to look in their eyes, just to kind of measure the temperature of the room, so to speak. Then I also was reflecting on social media, and not social media by itself as something negative, but the concept that when you scroll through your screen, generally what's being communicated to you, if it's an individual account, an influencer's account, are positive things. Everybody looks pretty, the filters are nice, the smiles are nice, the angles are nice, the bodies are nice, the words, well, they can be a mix, but in general, it's creating this sense of everything's good, everything's happy, and that's what gets posted. So when you're scrolling through any particular person's feed, you're seeing the positive aspects. It's not messy. It's not messy. It's crafted, and it's crafted in a way that gives the impression that we've got a lot of positivity, and that perhaps back in the recess of somebody's mind, there is an interpretation that negativity is bad. And this gets back to my point of these scripts that we have, that we've got this one script going, and our lives kind of maybe don't fit that. And then now we have a different experience of shame, which emerges in kind of, well, what's wrong with me? Or we're comparing ourselves. And this is a real thing that women do with each other, right? Compare, jealousy, envy, wanting to look like someone else, wanting to change your body so that it looks more like what is particularly how you identify the ideal or the good. It is a real thing that happens, and I don't think anybody has an experience in the world of not having that happen to them. As I was thinking about what I wanted to say with these young people in this room. I wanted to counter in some way that experience, both of reticence walking into the room, but then also the imagination of seeing somebody scrolling through a media feed that's communicating that something's wrong with them at any level. And I will go to two physiological changes that we can make immediately to counter that experience of jealousy or lowered self-worth. And then I'll give one example of something more behaviorally focused, which means you have to kind of think about it to do it. I like the physiological activities because we don't have to think about them to make a change in our bodies related to experiencing shame. The first one is making eye contact with people. Really making eye contact. That can be with people you love. It can be in a safe situation with a stranger, but recognizing somebody's there and you are there. Seeing the other person for that 10 seconds, 5 seconds, being with that other person, actually looking into their eyes, saying, I see you. Maybe saying, I love you with your eyes. Whatever it is, holding that eye contact for as long as you can tolerate it, actually, that physiologically will give a shift to the body and it will counter that experience of shame. It's a little bit ironic that walking into a social situation and looking down will immediately physiologically inspire a kind of appeasement or a shame response, whereas if someone walked into a room and made eye contact immediately, that would get countered. The second one is shared laughter. Now, this isn't laughter at something or someone, maybe it's something, but it's not usually deprecatory. So it has to do with we're teasing each other and laughing, or there's a funny joke or scene in a show and we're laughing together. But the experience of laughing together can also alter the physiology of that shame experience. I did tell the audience that I might not be the person to rely on for moments of shared laughter. I'm not that funny, I don't think. But anyway, it is important for us to have these moments. Now, in terms of thinking about the behavioral aspect, I honed in and will end here on this idea of being a woman with the concept of agency. It's really, really important to think about and practice our own agency, our own decision making, our own empowerment, because I think that's what being an agent leads to. When we do make decisions, we do them as a practice. That builds up our sense of agency in the world, and agency goes a really long way in terms of creating skills for both empathy and for getting through tough times. But I also underscored and underscore now with you the idea of helping other women be agents. Fostering the ability, supporting the ability to say yes to things that feel right and to say no to things that don't feel right. Fostering the ability to make decisions, supporting each other through tough times when that seems not possible in any given situation, where the bed looks better than a walk outside, but really supporting each other. Maybe making phone calls once in a while just out of the blue, or sending a text, hey, thinking of you. But doing that also with women who are friends, not partners, not male partners, female partners, whatever partners, but actually our friends. That's where I'll leave this today, for you to just think about, what does it mean to share laughter? What does it mean and how does it feel to make eye contact? And how do we, in being women, support each other through our own adoption of agency and for the fostering of the agency of another?